Alright, so in this video, we'll be looking at completing the square. And completing the square is when we have a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, or if we have it in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So this would be an equation. This would be a expression. If we have the quadratic in either these two forms, and we're supposed to express it, we're supposed to express a quadratic in any one of these forms in the form of a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k, where a, h, and k are real numbers. So to determine the value of k and h, we have to know that h is equal to b over 2a and k is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. We need to know these two formulas because they're not on the formula sheet. Also, we have to have ideas as how to use the quadratic formula, and the quadratic formula is x equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So whenever we are completing the square, we need to have ideas as to how to calculate h, in which h is equal to b over 2a and k is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. And we should have ideas as how to use the quadratic formula to solve for roots, or to determine the x values for when a quadratic function cannot be factorized. So I'm just going to get into a past paper question. So this is a 2011 past paper question. We're going to look at the B section right here. This is the B section of the question. So they said we're supposed to express f of x equal to 4x squared minus 8x minus 2 in the form of a bracket x plus h all squared plus k, where a, h, and k are constants. So 2 marks for that. So I'm going to solve that question. Then afterwards, they said state the minimum value of f of x. Then they say we're supposed to state the value of x for which f of x is a minimum. So I'm just going to run into this question. So remember, you can pause the video, try the question, then check to see if your answer is correct. So the question is f of x equal to 4x squared minus 8x minus 2, and we're supposed to express this quadratic function in the form of a bracket x plus h all squared plus k. So remember, we need to know what h is, we need to know what k is. So you have to remember that this quadratic, it's written in the form of a x squared plus bx plus c. So we can determine what a, b, and c are. So a is equal to 4, b is equal to minus 8. It's equal to minus 8 or negative 8. And c is equal to negative 2. C is equal to negative 2. Now let's see if we can calculate h and k, because a is 4. So h, you have to remember that h is equal to b over 2a. So h is equal to b. What's the value for b? B is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 times the a value, which is 2 times 4. So h is equal to minus 8 divided by 8. So 2 times 4 is 8, and minus 8 divided by 8, h is equal to negative 1. So now we need to determine the value for k. So k is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. So k is equal to, so let me separate this, k is equal to 4 times the a value, which is 4, times c, which is negative 2, minus the b value, which is 8 squared, divided by 4 times the a value, which is 4. So we have k equal to, remember you can use a calculator for this section. Right now I don't even know where my calculator is. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times negative 2 is negative 32. Now remember we have a negative in front of the bracket here, so we're going to square this. Negative 8. Negative 8 squared is equal to negative 8 multiplied by negative 8. So it's positive 64. So negative times negative, positive 8, 64. So so we have positive 64 in bracket here, all over 4, 4, 16. So we can simplify this. So we have negative, bracket means to multiply, so negative times positive is negative, so k is equal to negative 32 negative 64 divided by 16. So k is equal, you can put these values on the calculator. So we have 32, negative 32, negative 64, that is negative what, 96 divided by 16. So we can cancel this down. So as I said, don't have my calculator, so I'm just going to try and simplify this thing. So we have 2 into 16, that's 8. 2 into 96, so we have 2 into 90, that's 45. 2 into 6, that's 3. So 45 and 3, that's 48 divided by 8. So it looks like 2 can cancel again. So I use 2 to cancel here, so I'm going to use 2 to cancel this again. So 2 into 8, we have 4. 2 into 48, we have 24. Still can cancel on again. So 2 into 4, 2, 2 into 24, 12, and you can cancel again. So 2 into itself 1, and 2 into 12 is 6. So we're getting that k is equal to 6, negative 6. Remember that we have a negative value right here. So it's equal to negative 6. If you don't have a calculator, you just have to use a simple number like 2 to cancel down until you cannot cancel any further. So we have the value for h, we have the value for k. So we need to express our answers in this form. So we should express it in the form of a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k. So we have a was equal to 4 open bracket x plus h, but remember h is negative 1 and negative times positive is negative, so it's negative 1 close bracket squared, and the k is plus k, but k is negative 6. K is negative 6 right here, so we're going to have negative 6. So this would be our answer for 2 marks. It's a bit long, but as I said, you can use a calculator to solve the questions, and it will be much easier. Now the follow-up questions on this paper, they said state the minimum value of f of x. Now minimum, to determine if a function is a minimum, to determine if a function has a minimum or maximum value, we need to pay attention to the coefficient and the x squared. Now if the coefficient on this function, which is the x squared, if it's positive, when we draw the graph or sketch the graph, it's going to look like a smiley face. So that means it would have a minimum value right here, lowest point on the graph, a min value. But if the coefficient is negative, the graph would look like an n, and it would have a max value, which is the highest point on the graph. So the value that they're referring to, f of x is the same thing as y, but in this case, f of x is representing this k value right here. So k would be negative 6. So for the follow-up question, the minimum value for f of x would be equal to negative 6. So they always ask these two questions, or majority of the times they ask these two questions about f of x and about this x and about this x value. So the minimum or maximum value for f of x would be the k value, which is the negative 6 right here. It's a minimum because the coefficient on the x squared is positive. Now they said the value of x for which f of x is a minimum, the value of what? X. Now to determine this value of x, we are going to let this section of the perfect square, remember this is a perfect square, so inside the bracket we're going to let it x minus 1 equal to 0, and we're going to solve for x. So x would be equal to 1. Simple as that. So that would be the answer. So whenever you're answering completing the square question, and you have the answer, the minimum value or maximum value for f of x would be the k value, and the value to determine the value of x for which the functions are maximum or minimum, we would read off the value inside of this. We would read this off, let it equal to 0, and then solve for the unknown variable. So that was one question. So I'm going to go to another question now. So with this question, with this one, they said write f of x equal to 3x squared minus 5x plus 1 in the form of that. So that means we're going to complete the square. Then they ask about hence or otherwise the minimum value for f of x and the value for x. As I said, they always ask this question. Most of the time they ask about x and that minimum or maximum value for f of x. And then afterwards it looks like we're going to have to apply the quadratic formula here to solve this equation. So 4 marks to 2 decimal place. So let's get into the question. So as I said before, you have to remember, you can pause the video, attempt the question, then check to see if your answer is correct. So I'm going to write this out. So I'm going to have f of x equal to 3x squared minus 5x plus 1. So remember, we're supposed to express this in the form of a bracket x plus h bracket squared plus k. So remember that the quadratic is written in the form of a x squared plus bx plus c. So we know that a is equal to 3, b is equal to, you have to pay attention, negative 5, and c is equal to 1. So we know that h is equal to b all over 2a, and we know that k is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. So get my calculator. So alright, so b, remember b is negative 5, so we have negative 5 divided by 2 times the a value, which is 3. So h would be equal to negative 5 over 6. Then k would be equal to 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 1, minus 5 squared divided by 4 times 3. So equal to, so we know that 4 times 3 is 12 times 1, so we have 12 minus negative 5 squared is positive 25, but there's a negative in front of the bracket, so it's going to remain as negative 25 divided by 4 times 3 is 12. So it's equal to, so k is equal to, so 12 minus 25 is negative 13 over 12. So that's the value for h, that's the value for k, so we just need to represent, express or answer in this form. So we have we have a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k. So a is equal to 3 in bracket x plus h, but h is equal to negative 5 over 6 close bracket squared plus k, but k is equal to negative 13 over 12. So this would be our answer for 2 marks, and then for the other 2 marks they ask for the value for f of x. So remember, f of x the f of x value would be the k value. So f of x is equal to negative 13 over 12, and the x value, to determine the x value, we would let this section inside of the perfect square equal to 0. So we would have x minus 5 over 6 equal to 0. Then we would bring this over, solve for x would be equal to 5 over 6. So that would be for the other 2 marks. So we have, as I said, this question, this is solve the equation. So once they tell us that we're supposed to express your answers correct to 2 decimal place, that means we cannot factorize this function. It cannot be factorized, so you need to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to be doing that. So remember, again, if you want, you can pause the video, try the question, then check to see if your answer is correct. And everybody is human, so you can make mistakes sometimes. So let's get into the question. So we have 3x squared minus 5x plus 1 equal to 0. So with using the quadratic formula, you also have to remember that this is written in the form of ax squared minus or plus bx, plus c equal to 0. So a is equal to 3, b is equal to minus 5, and c is equal to 1. So the quadratic formula is x equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we just substitute these values and compute them. So it's equal to minus bracket minus 5 plus or minus the square root of minus 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times 1 all over 2 times 3. So it's equal to, so we know that negative times negative is positive 5 plus or minus the square root. We know that 5 squared, negative 5 squared is positive 25 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times 1. So we have minus 12 here all over 6. So we have equal to, x is equal to these. So x is equal to, we can subtract here using our calculator, or if you know what you're doing. So we have 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 divided by 6. Now we're going to have to use our calculator to determine what the square root of 13 is. So we have the square root 13 equal to, so the square root of 13 is 3.60555. So we can just round it off to probably let's use about 3 decimal places here. Well, yeah, let's use 2 decimal places here. So we have x equal to 5, because they said they want the answer to correct to 2 decimal places. We're going to use 2 decimal places here. So it's 5 plus or minus 3.6. We have 0.5. We have 3.605. So to get 2 decimal places, this would be the first, this would be the second. So pay attention to the number that comes after. So this would be 3.61 divided by 6. So I'm going to, when we reach this stage of the question, I'm going to write it twice. We have a plus or minus here, so I'm going to write one with the plus, one with the minus sign. So I'm going to have x equal to 5 plus 3.61 divided by 6. So I'm going to put that in the calculator. So we have 5 plus 3.61. I'm going to press divide. I get 8.61. Then I'm going to divide it by 6. I get x is equal to 1.435. And the other one, we have x is equal to 5 minus 3.61 divided by 6. So this one, x is equal to, so it's 5 minus 3.61 equal to 1.39. Then I'm going to divide it by 6. I get 0.233. But remember, they said they want the answers to 2 decimal places. I'm going to have to round these off. So I'm going to have therefore x is equal to 1.44 and x is equal to 0.23. And remember, these are 2 decimal places. So probably if you use the exact answers, then round them off to 2 decimal places, you would get probably a bit higher values than these. Alright, so that's it for that question. I'm going to go on to another one. So we're looking at completing the square. Now this is another past per question, but I'm just going to be focusing on the completing the square section. So we have x squared minus 6x plus 8. We're supposed to express this in the form of a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k. So we have 1 on the coefficient for the x squared, so we know that a is equal to 1, b is equal to minus 6, and c is equal to 8. We also know that h is equal to b over 2a, and k is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve. So once you understand how to solve the question, you can just skip some of the steps. So we have h equal to minus 6 divided by 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. So minus 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So k is equal to 4 times 1 times 8. Minus bracket minus 6 squared divided by 4 times 1. So k is equal to 414, 4 8's 1632, minus, this is negative 6 squared, positive 36, but there's a negative, so we have negative 36 here, divided by 4 times 1 is 4. So k is equal to 32 minus 36, negative 4, divided by 4. So that means h is equal to minus 3 and k is equal to minus 1. So that's 4 divided by 4 is 1 and there's our negative, negative 1. So we're supposed to express our answer in a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k. So we would have 1 for a, x minus 3 close bracket squared minus 1. So remember, for the f of x value, minimum value, f of x would be equal to negative 1, and to determine the value of x, we would let the inside here equal to 0, so x would be equal to 3. Okay, so in another video, or probably this same video, I'll be sketching the graphs of each of the completing the square that we did. So in our next video I'll do that sketch, because in relation function and graph you have to know how to complete the square and sketch a graph using those values. So I have 2 questions leave, so I'm going to be solving these 2 questions. So we have this one right here. For 3 marks, we're supposed to write 3x squared minus 12x plus 8 in the completing the square form, where a, h, and k are constants for 3 marks. So remember, you can pause the video and try the question, then check to see if your answers are correct. So I'm just going to go into the question. So we have 3x squared minus 12x plus 8. So remember, this is written in the form of ax squared, which is the general form for a quadratic expression or equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is equal to 3, b is equal to minus 12, c is equal to 8. So we know that h, so remember, we need to express it in the form of a bracket x plus h close bracket squared plus k. So we know that h is equal to b over 2a. So I'm going to solve for this first. So we have minus 12 divided by 2 times 3. So it's minus 12 divided by 6, which is negative 2. So that's the value for h. K is equal to 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. So it's equal to 4 times 3 times 8 minus bracket negative 12 squared divided by 4 times 3. So I said you can use your calculator, multiply these quick. So we have 4 times 3 times 8, which will give us 96, minus, we know that negative 12 squared is positive 144, but because there's a negative here, it's going to remain as negative 144 divided by 12. Then you can go ahead and subtract here, so it's 96. 96 minus 144 equal to negative 48, so we have negative 48 divided by 12. Then you can divide that by 12. You get negative 4, so it's equal to negative 4. So we can express our answer. So we have a is equal to 3. So I'm just going to go here. So a is equal to what? 3 bracket x plus h was equal to negative 2, close bracket squared, plus k is equal to negative 4. So we have negative, so we can just put negative 4 here. Remember, negative times positive is negative, so you don't have to put the positive sign right here. Now the follow-up piece to the question with this one, so they didn't ask about any maximum value or any x value, but I'm going to list those values. So f of x in this case is a minimum because the coefficient is positive. So f of x would be equal to, remember, the k value, it would be negative 4, and the x value, to determine the x value, you let this section equal to 0. So x minus 2 equal to 0. So x would be equal to 2. So this is the minimum value for f of x. This is the value for x for which f of x is a minimum. Now we have a different way in which they could ask the question. This x value also represents the axis of symmetry. This x value also represents the axis of what? Symmetry. So we're supposed to sketch the graph. So this graph, the coefficient on the x squared is positive, so it's going to look like a smiley face. The axis of symmetry is going to look like that, so it's going to bisect the graph into two equal parts. So the x value right here is x equal to 2, and the minimum point for f of x would be negative 4. So right here would be negative 4. So